Attention, please. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
The electricity here in Columbia, well, has been buzzing loudly all weekend.
Passion of the crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium is second to none.
And the rave breaks out in Columbia.
It is good!
Gamecock fans, welcome home.
See how it goes, but we'll be ready to go.
It's time to root.
Let's go, Carolina!
It's gone! Touchdown! What a hit! He baked it in! Can you believe it? Gamecocks have won this game!
Here are your hosts, J.C. Sherber.
Oh, watch him celebrate now!
Phil Molinex.
My wife doesn't like hanging around losers.
And Jamie Bradford.
I'm going to tell him, you look like you joined Duck Dynasty.
All right, greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home. Inside the Gamecocks, the show, live from the Signarama Studios, the preferred sign partner of the University of South Carolina and their athletics department. And, of course, we are built by the Barndo Co., the barndominiumco.com, where you can build your dream home for as low as $160 per square foot if you live in the Carolinas, in Georgia, or in Tennessee. JC is here today. He's on the road to the Palmetto State as work awaits once he gets here, and he'll be with us throughout the afternoon, but it'll only be in audio. We will, of course, be joined via video by both John Whittle, and we'll have our second episode of Talkin Ball with the great Pat DiMarco coming up at the top of the noon hour. As you can see, JB and Phil, we are going to be here with you as well until 1 o'clock as always. At noon, Phil, right when Pat comes on the air, the AP poll will be out. And right now, South Carolina is expected to, if not be in it, at least be very close to being in it. If they are, it would be the first time in 9 years that the Gamecocks have received top 25 votes, enough votes to warrant themselves being inside of the top 25 in the preseason. And, of course, they can stay there if they go beat North Carolina coming up in just a couple of weeks in Charlotte. But a reminder to everybody, they did finish in the AP top 25 last year. They finished at 23rd, even following the loss to Notre Dame down there in the Gator Bowl. So with all that said, good afternoon to my bald Clark Lee doppelgangered friend, Mad Dog Molinex.
Good morning. Yeah, I wish, had Clark Lee's money, that'd be all right. No.
Yeah, it can all work itself out. Yeah,
that's all right. He's got a pretty cool job, too.
Yeah, dude, I would say that's, I would absolutely say that. Yeah, it's time. You can kind of feel it now, the fact that we have gotten here, and high school football begins pretty much this week as well. I think it's week 0 in high school is what it actually is.
I know some of the Greenville County schools played jamborees this past weekend.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I know my wife's Carolina high school, I think they're Trojans, took on my daughter's Wade Hampton High School Generals on Friday.
Yeah. Well,
so it was like we had some, home turf wars.
That's right.
Yeah.
High school. Hey, look, I'm a big fan of high school football, and we are excited that those guys are getting back on the field as well. It's a great state for it here. And if you're not listening in South Carolina, wherever you are, happy high school kickoff week to all of those out there as well, if they are getting it underway. Yes, it is hot. We see in the Nano Sports chat box, guys, it's hotter than you know what out there. So if you're going to be outside, certainly be careful. Hats off to all of our mailmen and all those that listen to us while they're working outside. We know there's plenty of you that do so, but be careful. From what I understand, we're coming up here soon on a little bit of a quote unquote cool down, where the highs are just in the upper 80s, maybe around 90, and it's not a heat index of 115 dadgum degrees. Hopefully it doesn't feel like that up in Charlotte for the ball game on September the 2nd. Clint asked if there are any Carolina Rise tailgate tickets left. Do we have JC in here, or did he have to?
Not yet. We're working it out here.
Okay. All right.
We're working it out.
Clint, if we'll find out here in just a minute, but if there are any, there aren't many. It is pretty much sold out. I know that we talked this morning for a little bit. They have increased the number that can come in, but the problem is it can only go so high. And so if somebody out there is in need of a ticket and they haven't gotten one, sorry. You can wave, I guess, from the street or something like that while we're all in there kind of hanging out. But I'll let JC officially answer that question. And let me pass this along too, because I know that I tried to be helpful to somebody a little bit earlier, and I think we did kind of get it figured out on the Big Spur. But if you received a rain check package, don't if you received one, there's a ticket for each package. Okay. You can't just keep scanning the QR code to get all your buddies in and think that you're just going to shortchange the system. Like you're gonna figure it out, and you're going to show up, and your 9 other buddies who you thought you were going to squeeze by saving $10 a pop, hats off to you for doing so, they ain't going to be able to come in. And I know that some of that's been going on, and that was passed along to me this morning. So knock it off, grow up. I mean, come on, man. Like I can assure you there's going to be some folks in there that if they bought tickets to this thing and somebody scammed themselves in with a ticket and gets a meal before they do and they run out of food or something like that, you're going to have a big problem before you ever walk into the ball game. So don't do that. Don't do that. We will find you. Don't do it. Joel said, I have 2 I can pass along if you need them, JB. Yeah, it looks like Clint maybe might need more. So maybe, Joel, that's very kind of you, bud. So if you can, maybe I'll get together.
I would say we could probably facilitate that via inside the Gamecocks at gmail.com.
Sure.
Joel and Clint, send us an email. We'll work it out.
Yeah, that would be very kind. So really appreciate that. Appreciate the offer. Phil, a couple of things here relating to Gamecock football. One, the FCS coaches poll is out, and Furman is in the top 10. They're listed at number 6 in the preseason. Shouldn't be a shocker who's 1 and 2. It's the Dakotas, South Dakota State and North Dakota State, but Furman in there at number 6. So the Paladins, who will be making their way to Williams-Brice Stadium in week 2, might be coming in with a top 10 FCS ranking. And so hats off to them for that. And then also ESPN this morning, released by Chris Lowe, ESPN releases a preseason All-America team. Not a first, not a second, I'm third, fourth, no, just first. That's it, just one. And there were 12 players out of the SEC that made it between the offensive side, the defensive side, and the special team side. And one of them does wear garnet and black, and that is punter Kai Kroger. He has been etched in as the first-team punter on ESPN's preseason All-America team. So hats off to that young man. He is going to be, as we all know, very valuable this year for Gamecock football. So looking forward to that. Not sure if you were able to check in on that earlier or not, but it very subtly came out this morning. No one was even talking about it.
Yeah, it's like, well, at least he's getting some preseason recognition,
Yeah.
All of it seems to be subtle with him, heading into this. So I don't understand that at all.
Well, I mean, look, if Chris Lowe is in charge of something, it's going to be right. I have so much respect for guys named Chris Lowe, Tony Barnhart, the guys who've done it a long time. They do their research, but yet it's also, they have enough of that good old boy system in them where they don't need quote unquote sources. They just pick up the phone and call the guy that they're going to write an article about.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to go jump through hoops to figure out what's going on at practice with Shane Beamer. I'll just call Shane. Because those are guys when the phone rings and you look down and it's Tony Barnhart, they've done everything their whole lives so respectfully. They're not flamboyant. They don't get out there and give you their political opinions and tell everybody how everybody's doing everything wrong and this, that, and the other, like some of these other jacklegs do. They just cover the sport of college football. It's kind of an old school way of doing things. I don't know. Just give us the information and we'll decide for ourselves. So, if Shane Beamer or whoever, Steve Spurrier, God knows who, looks down and sees Tony Barnhart or Chris Lowe calling their phone, they're probably going to pick up and they're probably going to tell them the truth. So I have no doubt that this is pretty good insight here. But it is an interesting write-up on Kai Kroger from the ESPN, Phil. Quote, entering his 4th season as South Carolina's punter, Kroger has averaged 44.2 yards per punt during his career, emerging a year ago as an MVP candidate for the Gamecocks and one of the most flexible special teams players in the country. He averaged 46.1 yards per punt and 29 punts downed inside the 20-yard line, 3 inside the 5 in a 31-30 win over rival Clemson. That's a nice footnote there. But Kroger is more than just a punter. He's thrown 3 career touchdowns as a trick play passer and also holds on place kicks. That's pretty well rounded for being a punter, my man.
That is a solid resume for a punter.
That's not too shabby. So
gotta love it. And everybody wonders why, you bring a punter to SEC Media Days. It was like, well, because he's, one probably top 10 most beloved Gamecocks on the team right now.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know if has he ever thrown an incompletion, Phil?
I don't believe so.
I don't think
I
so.
want to say no. I know all of his passes have not gone for touchdowns, but I do not believe he has an incompletion on his record. You'll take that.
It's just remarkable. I guess I need to go look at Steve Fink's and the Gamecock Sports Information Office's handy dandy preseason.
The media guide, I bet has it. Yeah, you're right.
I know that they got it in there somewhere. The media guide, by the way, has been heavily updated. Media guides are beginning to, I don't know, spiral out of control is the right term here, but they're getting increasingly larger by like the second.
Yeah.
And I think this year's media guide coming off the desk of Coach Fink, again, there's a lot of people that put their work into this, a lot. But I think it's like 190 pages. And Coach Fink, if you happen to be listening here, I'm gonna be I don't know if I'll be the first one to tell you, but I'll just be honest with you. I haven't read all of it.
I haven't read all of it either.
I've gotten through a lot, but I haven't read all of it. Yeah, I'm trying to
I'm searching the 260-page PDF for the last name Kroger.
It's got to be in there somewhere, man.
I know it's in there. It's got to be.
We'll have to look it up. I just want to know if he's ever thrown an incompletion. Oh, nope, he hasn't. There you go. It's right on the. Hey, see, this is why Coach Fink in his office is good at what they do. It's in the immediate footnotes of Kai Kroger. You don't have to go look through the stats. He is a perfect 6 for 6 in career pass attempts, including 3 touchdowns.
6 for 6 with 3 touchdowns. Nice.
Yeah, that's well, and I mean, everybody, we goof about it, but his career punt average last year was 46, but his career average is 44.2, which is second on the all-time list behind Joseph Charlton, whom he replaced. So Carolina has had a hell of a run of punters over the last, 5 years, 6 years, somewhere in there. Not that they had bad ones prior to, but the last 2 statistically have been the best in the history of the program. And after he gets through this year, my gut tells me he's 1.3 yards shy of catching Joe Charlton at 45.5, who's punting in the NFL. My gut tells me he's going to own that record.
I would say so. I mean, it would be nuts for him not to achieve that.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's got a good shot. Jamie asked what level of Gamecock club do you have to be to access the media guide? You don't. I mean, they send us ours via email form, so we can. I guess I could go and get an actual copy from Coach Fink, but he sends ours directly. But you can actually just go to Gamecocks Online, and it's there. They've published it onto the website. If you go to Gamecocks Online and click into the football section under more links, they've got the media guide there. So if you got a good bottle of bourbon in a Friday night with nothing to do, you can sit around and read that thing. You'll probably learn something. I mean, it's pretty detailed. Mm-hmm. Hey, Craig's back. Hope Craig had a good anniversary week or a good birthday weekend. He turned, I think the ripe old age of 50, big 50.
Yeah, man, that's all right.
Hats off to Craig and happy birthday to him. Clint said yet he wasn't good enough to be a Ray Guy finalist. Talking about Kai Kroger, that was last year. Of course, he's on the preseason list this year. But it's pretty rough stuff. Interesting question. Never gotten this question. First of all, Bake SC803 looking to join a Gamecock network this season. Why should I join TBS? Well, first of all, good morning to you, and we appreciate you jumping in with us. I could give you a laundry list. Hopefully all these folks here that will probably end up chiming in on that question will answer it for both Phil and I. JC could definitely give you an answer, but he's driving right now, so I think he's in some rough service areas, and then we'll get him back here coming up in just a little bit. But I think that both Gamecock Central and the Big Spur, and this is going to sound like a very PR answer, Phil, but it's not. We know the guys over there, and they do a wonderful job. I've known Wes and Chris and those guys a long time. Colin Taylor is just an outstanding human. And Mike Uven, those guys, they're just great people. And they do a wonderful job at covering South Carolina. And then the Big Spur, these guys have become like family to me. And I know how hard they work, and they do a wonderful job at covering Gamecock athletics too. The Big Spur, I think, what would you say, Phil? You get a little bit more of a kind of a back and forth barroom style of message board. Where everybody kind of knows everybody and they don't mind going back and forth about a few things, but at the end of the day I think it's kind of all love. You're muted there, big guy. Yeah. Am I gonna have to do this show by myself today? You're still muted.
I can't figure this out. It's Monday, y'all. Give me a break. No, yeah. Excellent message board, and the other advantage is you get the full access to all the 24/7 team sites. So if you want to go mix it up in somebody else's message boards, go right ahead.
Absolutely, and a lot of them do that. The content is outstanding, and obviously here inside the Gamecocks, and if you've downloaded our new Chief Sports app, that is a direct link to the Big Spur as well. And so you don't have to pull up your web browser online. You can just click our app and click the partner section, and there it is. It pops right up. And so it makes things really, really easy when you're kind of hanging out. And we've got a pretty neat little network of stuff going on here. And who said that just a second ago? Jamie said Whittle's baseball coverage is not touched. Yeah, John is tied in with baseball as you can get. It's really remarkable, but everybody does some really good stuff, and we are proud to partner with all those guys. Haynes said Paramount Plus. Bobby said what did Bobby say here? The flawless production, such as the amazing use of the mute button. That's
Thanks,
a good
Bobby.
point.
Bobby's here to keep me humble. I really like that. I appreciate that, man. I need to, can't get the big head around here.
Yeah. Carol Lucas said, I demand an Alex Jones appearance on the show. We're working on getting Alex a little bit more in. Yeah. Don't worry about that. We're working on that. For Though, like Bake might be new to our programming here, and that's what I have to call him because I don't know his name. A lot of people here don't put their names up. But for those wondering what football looks like on this show, you'll find out starting here in just a few minutes. But our weekly guest schedule is John Whittle and Pat DiMarco on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we are joined by Hale McGranahan and a full hour of Power Hour with Mike Morgan. Wednesday is a rotating guest schedule that is a little bit geared national. This week we'll be joined by Brad Crawford. Thursday it is Perry Orth and another Power Hour with Mike Morgan. And then on Fridays, Michael Flint. We're working on something else right now that we think is going to be pretty neat as well as we get into football season. So hopefully you will enjoy all of that. It is 11:21. John's scheduled for 11:30, right?
Yes, that's his normal appearance time. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It is 11.
I'm good to take a break if you want to, because I could use a second JC and I are trying to get him on.
Yep, that sounds good. So we'll hit a quick timeout. Bradley Fields is in there at the Barn Dough Co. You will meet his lovely wife here before long, Alicia, who's an unbelievable representative of our title partner, the Barn Dominium Co., and that is who builds our program. If you head to the barndominiumco.com, you can build that dream home for as low as $160 per square foot. You got to live in the Carolinas, in Georgia, or in Tennessee. If you don't believe me, head to the website now and you'll see what I'm talking about. They are some kind of something very, very special, and we are very thankful many of you have already taken that opportunity over the last few months. Hang tight. Inside the Gamecocks, the show, part of the Chief Sports Network. We'll be right back. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signarama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signarama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signarama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signarama Columbia, and go Gamecocks.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
If you're in the real estate market in the Low Country or even in the Midlands, please contact me, JB, with Coast to Coast Realty SC. You hear me and see me every day here on Inside the Gamecocks, and it would be an honor to earn your business. I've been around real estate my entire life, as it's somewhat of a family business. I work with an elite team of experts from loans to insurance to closing, and they make my clients and my life very easy. It really is elite. Coast to Coast Realty SC.com is where you can find our staff, and you can always reach out to me here as well. Go Gamecocks.
Coach O here, and when I'm not eating average jambalaya or celebrating endless summer in Destin, I like to eat pimento cheese straight off the bucket. And the only pimento cheese I like to eat is from Nana's Porch. It's award-winning. It'll melt in your mouth. It's good on a cracker. It's good in a bowl. It's good on a piece of bread. Also, don't forget Nana's Porch has a hell of a food truck. It's award-winning as well, and they're here for all of your catering needs. So get online, nanasporch.com. It's good. Coach O signing off. Endless summer, go Tiger.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
All right, 11:25. Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barndo Co. and live always from the Signarama Studios. Matt Vaughn, if you are watching, I know you're busy trying to get Williams-Brice Stadium dressed up for football season, but thanks for what you do. The one of the things that hasn't been talked about a lot, and I'm okay with it, by the way, because people like to, it's talking season, so they like to talk about all the things that don't matter. But it does make you think a little bit because it's changed so much over the years. The broadcast teams for college football this year, and ESPN, ABC, they released all those last week. Do you have a favorite one, Phil? You have a favorite group like that calls a game? I think you're muted again there, big guy. You there? We can't hear you today. You are muted and not getting anything, but nothing. Okay. All right. As announced by ESPN last week, some of the broadcast teams that are out this year are pretty much what we're used to, but Fowler, Herbstreit, and Rowe on ABC on Saturday night. The big change that got all the attention was Greg McElroy sliding in place of Todd Blackledge on ESPN Saturday Night Primetime with Sean McDonough and Molly McGrath, who's really, really good. And I don't understand it because McElroy was catching all kinds of heat for being promoted. And I think he's one of the best out there. I love him on, when he's on the SEC network providing coverage. I love his radio show. I think he's very well thought out. I don't know that he's just some big Alabama homer or anything like that. But he's a guy who's kind of slipped right in with Sean and Molly, and all of a sudden people don't like him. Now, is it going to be difficult to replace Todd Blackledge? Sure. Yeah, I think Todd Blackledge is the best color guy in football. He's outstanding. But with McElroy in there, he's going to grow into being a really, really good one. And he's got Sean McDonough to kind of carry him through it. The rest of the team, though, that's the thing. I think that the SEC Saturday night group with Hart and Rogers and Cole Kubelik, not only is it good, but it's also pretty funny because those guys have an incredible rapport, and Cole Kubelik is hilarious on the sidelines. But then you've got this other group that's interesting. Joe Tessitore is one of the best play-by-play guys out there, and Katie George is outstanding. Jesse Palmer is going to be back in the booth this year, and he's going to join Joe Tessitore as his color guy with Katie George on the sidelines. And then you've got Bob Wischusen, who I think is outstanding, and Chris Budden on the sidelines. But I'm going to say something that's unpopular here, and I know it. And somebody's going to jump on me for this. I think he knows it. I think he seems like a great guy. I'm not the biggest Robert Griffin III fan in the booth. I think that at times it gets to be a little much. I'd rather just hear you call the game, and I understand some of the zazz, and I know that we're in 2023 and that there are things that maybe need to be updated a little bit here and there. But Robert Griffin III really, really doesn't do it for me a whole bunch in that role as far as being a color guy with Bob Wischusen and Chris Budden, who I think Chris Budden is one of the best out there. But outside of that, I don't really ever complain too much about the guys calling the ball games, especially out of respect for my good buddy, Mr. Mike Morgan, because it can be a little much at times. Yeah, that's something that I don't know. Harrison says RG3 turns it into a stand-up special when he's in the booth. And yeah, I just like sometimes you just call the game, just call the game. Keith, our man Keith Alsep is in there, said talking about McElroy's not in Blackledge's league. NBC made a major move getting him. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, Todd's the best. I think Todd's the best one out there, and they did. NBC nailed it. And but I think he does a good job, and I think he's going to grow into being a really good one. I don't know that they could put anybody in that spot to replace Todd Blackledge. I'm not sure who out there that I would just slide right in and feel really comfortable with, especially when you look at the remaining color guys that ESPN has. One of the interesting notes on that note is who is going to be joining Dave Neal, who seems like he's been doing it for 100 years, and the great Taylor Davis, who she'll be on the sideline with Dave this year. Derek Mason, former Vanderbilt head coach, will be the color guy with Dave, and you'll hear them everywhere. ESPN, ESPN2, the ACC network or the SEC network. I don't think he'll do any ACC network, but Derek Mason will be jumping in there with Dave Neal and Taylor Davis as well. So if you haven't seen all that, it's kind of an interesting conversation to have. But go check it out. John Whittle with the Big Spur joining us now. It is 11:31 on this Monday, August the 14th. I'm glad that he is, because apparently Phil and JC are both having some type of wacky issues. So we'll let them figure out what's going on, and we'll let John carry us through the rest of the hour before we start talking ball with the great Pat DiMarco. What's up, my man?
What's happening? It's great to be here. There are only 2 boxes right now. I'm sorry for you,
dude. I have no idea what the hell is going on. JC and Phil, or I don't know what's happening, but we're here.
Do you enjoy talking to yourself, or at least people getting with you in the chat box?
So, here's the thing, man. I was on this morning on 107.5 the game with Gunner, and they didn't have a producer show up. And because Jen's out of town, and I'm not sure what happened from there. That's none of my business. But he texted me and said, I'm producing the show. And it took me back to 6-7 years, and I'm not going to say who my partner was because I haven't seen him in a long time, but I have a ton of respect for him. He's doing incredibly well in the industry. And he would just randomly not show up. And we had a 6 to 9 a.m. show. You talk about feeling the most lonely you probably have ever felt doing anything in your life, John. I felt like there wasn't a soul out there listening to me. At times I'm literally like coming up with things. I'm like, what do we have in the studio? Oh, I got a gift card to Fuji Sushi. Okay, the next person that calls, I'll give a $20 gift card to Fuji Sushi. Like, dude, it was the worst thing ever. And so Phil just took me back into that moment just a minute ago. I appreciate that, Phil.
I'm just keeping you on your toes, JV.
I see that. Yeah, I see that.
Listen, hey, of all 3 of us that could handle the show, at least you're the one who's got the experience and the ability to maintain the professionalism to do this. So thank you. We
John,
really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's right. John, that would be the infamous major league fly ball caught.
There we go. I love it. I love it.
Oh man! All right, John. News and notes from the weekend. Let's start with the injury list. What are you hearing on that front?
Oh well, there's so many things I love about Shane Beamer, but being exactly precise on his injury reports aren't really that. They're usually a little on the optimistic side. From what Shane Beamer says, he expects basically everybody to be ready, or is at least optimistic that everybody will be ready for the game against North Carolina. Antoine Wells, Juice Wells, I think is very iffy on that. Trey Knox, I think, is going to be available. He's Shane said that he'll be back at practice hopefully today. We'll when a guy returns to practice and Shane says he's going to be back at practice, that doesn't mean that he's going through 11 on 11. It may mean he's doing some jogging on the side and going through stretch drills and that kind of thing. And I don't think Trey is going to be a full participant in practice probably this week, but certainly probably not today. So we'll see how that goes. I am optimistic that Trey Knox will be ready to go for the game against the Tar Heels on September 2nd. So that's good. But some other guys are nicked up a little bit, but most of the other guys should be ready to go as well.
Yeah, the Juice Wells situation is rather interesting. He hadn't even been out there. I mean, my understanding is he's going to be fine, and but he hasn't even been out there. John, is there? A lot of times when you do have an injury, you'll at least have the players at the facility, or at least they're seen from time to time. Is there any reason to look further into that, or
No, we saw him out there. We saw him out there the first day or two of practice. We didn't see him last week, and practice is open again on Thursday this week, I believe it is. So we'll be on the lookout for him at that point too. So, yeah, I mean, there've been a couple of days at practice where he hadn't been out there, but that's not something that I'm particularly worried about.
Okay, all right. Anything that caught your attention coming out of the first scrimmage of the preseason this past Saturday?
It sounds like the couple of the wide receivers have had a good day, and some of the offensive skill guys, DeCarry and Joyner. It was a typical first scrimmage. There were some mistakes on both sides, and that's kind of what you expect to see out of this. But it sounds like there were some nice plays, especially from the offensive side of the ball, and which I think is encouraging.
One of the questions we're anxious to ask Pat DiMarco about here in just a little while is because you don't ever know how to read this. Is the offensive line better, or does the defensive line suck? Like, why can't they get any pressure on the quarterback? Or is the offensive line must be really good, or vice versa, of course. Is the offensive line terrible, or is the defensive line really good, or what's going on? So we'll let Pat kind of answer that question. But one of the things that I have noticed, John, is they really like this young group on the offensive side of the football up front, the freshman group. I don't know that they would be in love with having to start 3 or 4 of them, but they do like the fact that they've got them at least in the 2 deep, and I think they feel comfortable as the season moves along. If things stay healthy, once those guys, kind of piece some time in here and there, they're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and I agree with that sentiment. Some of those guys could get into a bigger role this year for South Carolina. I always kind of go back to Dylan Wanham is one of those guys who his freshman year, you looked at him and you saw him play a little bit early on, and then by the midpoint of the season, he was rocking and rolling with the first team as a starting right tackle. And, I could certainly see that being the case with a guy like Marquis Anderson, for example. He got in early, which gives him a little bit of a jump start in front of the other freshmen. So just being able to go through spring practice. But I think that he's going to be in a position from a knowledge standpoint, a maturity standpoint, a physicality standpoint to be a contributor this year. But you look at some of the other guys that have come in, your Tree Babalade at tackle and Trevon Ball at guard. Like, both of those guys have been guys who have looked like they could be contributors at some point earlier rather than later. Maybe not so much as true freshmen, but maybe next year. So they're definitely guys to keep an eye on, and something that Dowell Loggins mentioned a week ago or a couple of weeks back when we were talking. So we've got to figure out what we've got in that group of freshman offensive linemen. We really like them, but we got to see them out there on the field. And from what I can gather, they've liked what they've seen so far.
How is that translated to the running back group, John? I think that, I don't want to say the word surprise. That's a pretty poor word to put in Shane Beamer's mouth, but he was fairly complimentary and optimistic of some of the attributes that these guys are bringing to the table. Clearly, we've heard plenty about DeCarry on, and he seems to be the far and away RB1. But behind that, I mean, he singled out basically every running back that's on the depth chart and saying that they all are providing something. And John, I think that they're kind of under the belief that if they can get that offensive line kind of where they want them, by the first 8-12 quarters of the season, that group that's toting the rock back there, Dowell Loggins is going to have a better idea of what to do with them.
Yeah, I think if the offensive line plays well, the group of running backs is good enough to be productive. they don't have a Marcus Lattimore that can create something behind a bad offensive line. Like there's not a guy out there who can be successful if the guys up front aren't really doing much for him, like a Mike Davis could at times, or a Marcus Lattimore could at times. Like that, there's just not that guy to carry on to, in my opinion. I guess maybe he can change my mind in a few weeks. Hopefully he doesn't have to. Hopefully the offensive line's good. But that being said, all those guys do provide a little bit of something. Juju McDowell we've seen for a couple of years. DJ Braswell has really good speed and has shown that in practice. I think they've been really pleased with what he's been able to do in a short time there on the field. You know, some of these guys who they really like and have really liked and thought could be contributors really didn't get here until the summer. So those guys have got to get jump started here pretty quick. But DJ Braswell being one of them, like Mario Anderson, they all have different little somethings that can be beneficial to the offense. So it's about figuring out what the guys do well, getting them in the right spot, and hopefully to carry on can be the RB1 all season, and because he does a lot of things really well. Hopefully he can stay healthy and be ready to roll. He's the most complete back on the roster as we sit here today. But, you know, some of those other guys can be productive in spots too.
Cam Sandlin, he's healthy or healthier? What are you hearing on him?
Healthier. You know, I don't – he's not as good as he's going to be right now, but he's getting
big
healthier.
Boy.
And we'll see where he goes here in the next month or so.
You know, it kind of, guys, takes me back. There's some similarities to the 2005 running back group here, because you had, well, I mean, differences clearly, but also some similarities in the fact that you just really didn't know. And that 2005 team returned Dacus Turman, and they were bringing Bobby Wallace in, and they were bringing the first Mike Davis in. And Savell Newton actually got some carries that year running back. If y'all remember, I think he had 20 or 30 carries during the season. And that was about it. You know, you pretty much knew that with Dacus and Mike and a little bit of Bobby Wallace, you were going to have to get through the season with those three guys. And Coach Spurrier really kind of designed or redesigned, I guess, maybe that offense with Blake Mitchell around the fact that they weren't in love with their running game. Do you see any similarities there at all, Mike? I mean, John, because I think if you compared the talent of, let's call it the top three, or let's call it the top four of this group to that 2005 group, I don't know. I actually probably give the edge to this group.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm glad you said all the names because I get my years confused on. I'm not JC. I can't remember who was third on the team in rushing back in 1974 or whatever it was. Like, you know, so I'm glad you rattled off the names. But yeah, as you went down that list and thinking about what these guys are compared to what those guys were then, you know, I would say that's definitely true. You know, Dacus Turman was a nice between the tackles kind of guy, strong and sturdy, and got some yards after contact. And Bobby Wallace, you know, I would take a Juju McDowell or a DJ Braswell over him that year. You know, same with Mike Davis. You know, I mean, I think you're probably right in that for sure.
Yeah, Jamie just asked here about the was that the year Blake got hurt? That was 2006. When Blake went down and Savell came in there and kind of saved the day at the quarterback position. But shoot, that 2005 team, if you know, it was that was an interesting year. That was the year that they remember that they ran Antonio Hefner out there to start the game at Auburn and had 2 delay of game penalties for the first snap.
I think it was 2 timeouts, wasn't it? Instead of 2 delays,
or two timeouts instead of 2 delay game penalties. Yeah, we knew it was going to be a long night.
Tough. Yeah,
that was tough. And I don't think anybody that year had over like 300 yards receiving outside of Sydney. Sydney caught like literally every pass that Blake threw down the field. It was pretty wild. This team's a lot different though. And you mentioned the Trey Knox situation. I think last week, you know, a lot of social media rumors kind of bursting on to the scenes that he's torn this and he's torn that. He's going to be out for this long and that long. And then, you know, you got a lot of doctors on Twitter, John. I'm not sure if you knew this or not, but it's a good place to go for medical advice. and then they chime in and say, well, if that's what it is, it's minimum 6 weeks. Minimum 6 weeks. Maybe looking at the Georgia game, but more than likely, guys, we'll be 0-3 before we get him back. And so all those guys chime in, and Shane said, he actually should be back practice on Monday. On that note, though, him and Josh Simon are not like your typical tight ends. Like, they have very much the Jared Cookish in them, where they're going to line them up all over the place. Have you heard anything on that front?
Yeah, I mean, they are. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. They're going to line up in different spots, but they're both capable blockers too, and willing blockers. I think that's important to note. Like, most of these tight ends are capable of going out there and blocking. Some of them aren't willing. Some of them don't put forth that effort, but both of these guys do. Trey Knox wants to get in there and mix it up, and Josh Simon's done it too. But both are very good pass catchers from their previous spots, and they got some size. They got enough speed to be put out there, and they're mismatch problems too. So, I really like what the versatility and the options that Dowell Loggins is going to have there. And then, you've got a Reed McKeska out there as well, who can block a little bit, maybe play a little H-back type. And I mean, the tight end position, I think is really, really strong. Losing Nate Atkins certainly hurts, but you almost feel cheated a little bit with off of last year with Nate Atkins. Like, he played a lot of snaps. I mean, he played more snaps, I think, than any other tight end last year, but they weren't always using him, quite like we saw those last 3 or 4 games. And, that was a joy to watch that last quarter of the season with Nate playing the way he did. But, I remember Shane talking early in the year last year about how, doing some self-scouting, they needed to throw the ball to Nate Atkins more, because whenever Nate was in, they'd be running the football, and that was a tendency that they had to tip off defenses. And they finally got him the ball a little bit, and then they started to make a couple plays, and then they started to get it to him a little bit more and look for him. Like, I would have loved to have seen a full year of Nate Atkins like we saw that last quarter of the year. That was really cool to watch. But I do think the tight end position specifically is going to be really good, be really influential this year in terms of what South Carolina does offensively.
All right, a couple more things. We'll get you out of here in the next few minutes. So on the kind of with the Juice Wells absence at this point in time, and again, he will be back soon, and Juice is primed for a huge year for South Carolina. It's X time, apparently the app was named after him. I mean, the more folks that I check in with, the more excitement you hear about Xavier, as he says, Leggett from Mullins, South Carolina. I mean, he's a guy who I think, John, if it all comes together, and it has every chance to, he could be maybe one of those guys in the SEC at the end of the year, and you go, yeah, we knew he was good, we didn't know he was that good, and maybe be looking at a nice long career in the NFL. What have you heard on this kid? I had a source this morning tell me, I love that kid. He's just a good old country boy. He loves ball. He listens. He's coached well, and he's worked his ass off.
Yeah, he has. He's worked incredibly hard, and that's one thing over the years that they've talked about is his work ethic. So that's been good. He's a strong, physical, fast specimen. There have been some issues with him catching the football at times, and that's been kind of what's held him back some from time to time. But he's worked on the jugs machines, and I don't know if it was a confidence thing or what it was, but he's kind of put that to rest a little bit towards the end of last year, and has had a really good off season coming into this year. And with Juice out, he's been a one wide receiver kind of guy. So I feel like he's in a very good spot going into this. Amarian Brown's been really good in camp. He can play outside, he can play slot, he can do a few different things too. So I think the wide receiver position, especially when you add in the tight ends too, and their pass catching ability is in a fine spot if they're down Wells for a game or two or not. And I'm not projecting Juice is going to be out just yet. But if with Juice being limited right now and maybe limited early in the season, I still think still think that receiving game is in a good spot.
Defensive line, John, what are you hearing on those guys?
Encouraged by that, especially in the middle. I know, Brad Crawford wrote today in a piece on the Big Spur that Jatias Gear, transfer from Syracuse, has been really good, and that kind of lines up with some of the things that we've heard. So, that's very helpful on the edge. But Tonka is going to be really good this year. I think Tonka is going to maybe even have an all SEC type of year this year. His versatility, I think, is certainly going to be something that proves beneficial for him and the Gamecocks defensive line as a whole. But, I think, I still have a little bit of nerves of what that defensive line is going to look like come North Carolina, but I do think they're going in the right direction, and there's some feel good around the program right now with what it's kind of looked like so far.
Top 25 comes out in a few minutes. John, are the Gamecocks in it?
I don't think so. I don't think they're going to be there. I think they'll be just outside it, just like they were in the coaches poll. So, it'd be nice to have a top 25 matchup that opening week of the season, and maybe that's what we'll see. But I think it'll probably be right outside.
All right. Do I dare ask what you're going to be watching for in practice this week?
You can. I think the obvious things are certainly going to be, who's out there practicing and doing what. What Trey Knox is doing, if anything, if Antoine Wells is out there at least moving around some with the team, doing some things against air or not. It's not a game week practice. It's not something that you need to be out there doing anything for in preparation for the season. You'd like to get those guys and back maybe at least by middle of next week. But we're not in do or die mode right now. We're not in alert mode on seeing those guys. But I would like to see what those guys look like moving around, and I want to see what it looks like on the offensive line too. In terms of, we won't get to watch a whole lot of contact, I don't think, but who's out there running with which groups, and guys who may have shifted around a little bit, what they're looking at in terms of combinations. I think that's one of the big points of emphasis in preseason camp, is figuring out exactly where the pieces fit best. But I think those are a couple of things that jump out immediately to mind, and into what I'll try to keep an eye on Thursday when we get to watch them a little bit.
Yeah, one more scrimmage coming up this Saturday, and then technically they'll start kind of rolling into pregame preparation mode with North Carolina coming up September the 2nd. They're going to have a pretty good idea, John, of where they stand once they get through this week, and then start to work back some of these guys who've been a little banged up, work them back into it as they start kind of getting towards game one. So can't wait for that. There's no doubt about it. All right, John, I'll let you answer this question since JC is lost on the road somewhere headed to the Palmetto State. We did have somebody chime in earlier who said he was looking to join a South Carolina network this season. Why should I join the Big Spur? Nobody better to answer that than you.
Breaking news, recruiting information, detailed info on basketball, baseball. Heck, I've got some VIP takeaways from last night's soccer match too. But we've got up in Raleigh, North Carolina. It was a nice little trip. But no, it's we have a great community full of message boarders as well. But I'm a little bit biased. I believe we've got the best team of folks covering the Gamecocks from a football and football recruiting standpoint. We've got one of the most active message boards in the entire college message board community. So it's a great place to be, to hang out with the Gamecocks and learn a little bit about a little bit about what's going on with the program from a VIP standpoint, and also a press conference type standpoint. So I certainly am a little bit biased towards the Big Spur.
And to that gentleman who asked the question earlier, if you join today, you're in luck, because Monday night the VIP room comes out and you get to read all the juicy stuff that we all wait all day for, and then we get to go onto our social media outlets and regurgitate it as our own information.
I think that's happened a time or two. And
it has.
The site, but you know what? That's okay. At least folks, we know we're reading.
Yeah, that's right. I hear you, John. Good stuff as always, man. We're only a couple of weeks away from previewing an actual football game, and we can't wait to get there.
I love it. Can't wait. Stay
cool. See you next week.
Appreciate you guys.
There you go. The great John Whittle with the BigSpur.com. It is 11:55. Talkin Ball with Pat DiMarco is coming up here in just a moment. And we, of course, also are awaiting the AP's preseason top 25 that should be literally released within the next few minutes. So we're going to go ahead and click a timeout here. And then when we return, we'll get to that. And Pat, we are powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston, electricbikescharleston.com. That is where you can ride around for about 60 miles. And you can get up to speeds of 28 miles per hour. And if you don't live in the low country, have no fear. Head to the website. You can come from anywhere. They'll find you anywhere, and they will make sure to take great care of your needs. They have the best service out there, electricbikescharleston.com, thanks to the wonderful people, the Wilkins family, and they are Gamecock owned and operated as well. They also, of course, own Charleston Fitness Equipment. So if you're looking to maybe put something in your home to stay in shape while you're eating and drinking too much this football season, probably a pretty darn good place to start. electricbikescharleston.com, charlestonfitnessequipment.com, and we will be right back. Welcome home. That's what the Gamecocks say, and so does the Barn Dough Company, where they can build your dream home starting as low as $160 per square foot. If you live in the Carolinas, Georgia, or Tennessee, their turnkey process takes just 4 to 6 months on average and can be custom designed by size and details. Make your dream a reality. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barn Dough Company, Gamecock, owned and operated.
Welcome to TravelingCountryClub.com, your modern golf club experience. Hey folks, this is Michael Manus, former Gamecock golfer, inviting you to play more golf with a membership to TravelingCountryClub.com. With over 40 courses across the Carolinas, our membership provides you with an affordable way to enjoy a club-like golf experience. From the mountains to the coast, we offer golf courses that will challenge all types of golfers, no matter your handicap level or level of play. Plus, we offer unique membership benefits not seen anywhere else as part of Traveling Country Club. Tee it up with Traveling Country Club, TravelingCountryClub.com, TravelingCountryClub.com, proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Hey everybody, this is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garnet black every day by a couple of painters. Go to letmepaintsomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. letmepaintsomething.com.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Nana's Porch, nanasporch.com. At Nana's Porch, they cater weddings, parties, and all kinds of special events. Their meals are served buffet style, and seconds, they're encouraged. Plus, they can bring their mobile food unit to bring on-site and serve your guests as a unique alternative for your catering needs. Inquire about rentals as well. nanasporch.com. Find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. 336-259-7550.
If you're on Medicare currently or approaching eligibility, it's time to enroll in a Medicare plan that meets your needs. Palmetto Medicare is here to help you through the process. Palmetto Medicare's owner, Brian Spencer, and his team of experts are here to assist you. Learn about the benefits and enroll in the plan that will cover as many of your medical costs as possible. Some of the advantages of Medicare health plans may include a variety of plan choices, increased benefits, lower premiums, and more. Give Palmetto Medicare a call to discuss your insurance and help get the exact coverage for your needs today.
It's time for Talkin Ball with Pat DiMarco on Inside the Gamecocks, the show, part of the Chief Sports Network.
12:01 p.m. final hour, Monday afternoon, August the 14th. Welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barndo Co. and powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston. Talkin Ball with our friend and yours, everybody's friend, Pat DiMarco, is going to start here in just a second. But first, the preseason coaches poll, preseason AP poll is out. And unless I am totally reading something incorrectly here, South Carolina is, I don't know what they've done here. Oh, here it is.
Suspense.
Yeah, well, they didn't update everything. Yeah, so South Carolina not in the top 25. North Carolina is at number 21. The Gamecocks received enough votes to come in 27th in the country, right behind Texas Tech. Iowa rounds it out at 25. There should be no shocker who's at number 1. That's Georgia. The rest of the top 10 as follows: Michigan, Ohio State at 3, Bama at 4, LSU at 5, Southern Cal at 6, Penn State at 7, Florida State at 8, Clemson at 9, and Washington is right there at number 10. So, Pat, what type of fuel is that going to provide Shane Beamer's group as they head into the opener against the Tar Heels?
I mean, I think it's all motivation, right? I mean, being overhyped is never great. I mean, but I know that Coach Beamer and crew are instilling in these guys a winning attitude and going into each game knowing they got a chance to win. And that's all you need with the hungry group of guys. It's just kind of a small glimpse of what it can be, and then working towards it. I mean, it's, when you have big expectations ranked in the top 5, you have a target on your back. When you're kind of just outside of the top 5, you can really jump in and sneak up on people. I mean, shoot, I don't think any of my 4 years we were ever top 15 preseason, but we creeped into the top 10, I think 2 of my 4 years. Obviously wanted to finish stronger than we did, but I mean, it was that motivation of saying, okay, they're sleeping on us. Okay, let's show them. And coming out first game of the year, I mean, we played NC State 2 of my 4 years, I mean, which is a pretty good matchup. First game of the year, came out and beat them both times. So kind of starting off on a hot streak is always what you want, and getting momentum going in.
Yeah. Does this stuff ever get talked about in the locker room? I mean, coaches say that it doesn't, but do you? What was it? I saw something about billboard material. Like, you don't want to give anybody billboard material, but you want to have some yourself. Stuff to put in the locker room, stuff to hit in the team meeting, maybe give the team about 2 or 3 minutes to get pissed off about, and then bring it back down to earth. Say, hey, other people are saying this, but it's only about what we got in this locker room, or what we have in this team meeting room.
One of Dan Quinn, who, in my opinion, is one of the best head coaches I've ever played for in Atlanta. He had 3 rules. One was be early, or early was on time. 2 was protect the team, so don't do anything to put the team in jeopardy. And 3 was to ignore the noise. So all the outside BS and talk here, talk there, let your pads do your talking and let the team internally do the talking on the field. 3 simple rules, kind of like Coach Spurrier's, but a little different. I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago. But 3 rules, nice and simple, and really easy to remember and trigger. And hey, we'd break OTA meetings, and he'd break the practice and say, hey, rule number 2 is in effect, protect the team. Boom, nothing else needed to be said. So ignore the noise, but also let it motivate you a little bit. As a 2-star prospect and an undrafted free agent, I don't know how my future would have went, but if I was probably a 4-star and drafted in the 2nd round, would I have played 10 years? Would I have overachieved? Probably not. The chip on my shoulder and that type of stuff did carry me a long ways.
Yeah, like we've heard things, and I'm not going to have you on here throwing fireballs at any other program out there, but apparently there are programs. One of them's pretty close to ours. They put clocks on the wall and stuff like that. Hey, here's the countdown till we play this team again, and just so happens maybe it's a rival. I remember when Coach Holtz got to South Carolina, Pat, he walked around. There was a bunch of stuff up there about beating Clemson. He walked around and said, pull this crap off the walls. We got 10 games to play before we get to the Tigers. This is back when they played 11 games. And, I've always wondered that. I guess there's multiple ways to do things, but some coaches just say, no. We're not going that far. Is it gimmicky? I guess it's not if you buy into it. I don't know.
It can be. I think it's more if you're going to do a clock due to the start of the season. Don't zero in on one opponent, because you got 12 cracks at it. Hopefully 14 with an SEC championship game and a big bowl game. Shoot 15 if we get further along there. But I've had them. Honestly, you see it the first day, and then you almost don't see it for the rest of the time. Oh, you're like, oh, that's cool, that's neat, that's new. All right, now what do we got today? What do we got the next week? What do we have the next month? Like, what are the days I need to stack to get to where I ultimately want to get to?
That's cute.
So yeah, that's cute. That motivated me for 6 seconds. Now time to get to work.
We play Clemson on November 23rd. Who knew? All right, neat. Or excuse me, we play South Carolina on November 23rd. All right, Pat. Speaking of South Carolina, the running back group. You were what is? I don't know what it is anymore, but it was once called a fullback at least. Yeah, exactly. To the new crop. Any of you out there under 30 that are listening or watching this, there's actually a position called a fullback at one point in time. Pat, okay, so one of the things that this group here, the running back group, has is youth, and we know that, and but it's actually young in different ways, because DJ Brazel, like Juju, isn't young. He's played 2 years at South Carolina. De'Carrion Joyner certainly isn't young. But he is young to being a starting running back in the SEC. Mario Anderson is not young at all. He's played 4 years at Newberry, but he's young to playing at this level. This is his first year jumping up into the Southeastern Conference. And then DJ Braswell, a guy that they look at and go, sweet Lord, he can fly, but he hadn't stepped on the field yet here to play against the big boys. So it is a very young room, but that's speaking to that. What is that experience like? Because you played as a freshman under Coach Spurrier in 2007 at South Carolina in that room. And what is it that makes you drink through that water hose? And when do you feel that? When do you start to feel the water pressure back off a little bit?
Honestly, it was like after the first scrimmage, you kind of realize, all right, I'm playing against these type of guys. The talent level changes a little bit week to week, but really not that much. Going from Newberry to playing in the SEC, yes, but playing against South Carolina's defense versus North Carolina's defense, it's going to be pretty darn similar. Maybe a different little scheme, maybe a more elite player at certain positions, but as a collective unit, it's going to be pretty similar, playing against same talent, same size, same speed. So I think at that position, it's really getting through the first scrimmage, taking your first few hits, getting tackled a few times, and then just getting acclimated with the offense. I mean, for a player like me, who cares what the defense does? If I'm good at what I'm good at doing and we can call that stuff and put me in good positions to succeed, I don't care what the defense does. Like, there's answers to everything. If the DN spikes inside, okay, the ball bounces. If the DN sets a tight edge, then I plug it. If the safety comes down and plays a little deep, I can give him a move. If the hole's plugged, drop your shoulder and kind of set the tone early. So, I mean, there's not too much difference. I think it's just more – I mean, thankfully, that room's coached by Monterio Hardesty, who played at Tennessee for 4 years, went on to play in the NFL 5 or 6 years. Dow Loggins coached in the NFL, so those two will know how to relate to that position and get that position ready. So I think having people in place that have been there, done that, is going to be huge for that room, especially not having that much experience. But Mario Anderson played 4 years at Newberry. DK Joyner's played 17 years at South Carolina already. So, like, we're sitting here and we have a lot of experience, at least playing the game of football. The game hasn't changed too much. So these guys will, I think, be able to step in. And then having a DJ Braswell who can take the top off at any second only adds that other element to it. So, no, I think that room's going to be in a good place. And I'm really excited to see those guys go out there and gas guys, because if you don't think that room has a chip on their shoulder and they haven't seen some of the junk people have been talking about, oh, well, they lost this guy, what are they going to do? That room's going to come out firing, I can promise you that.
It all ties in, Pat, and we're going to try to do that here. You mentioned Dow Loggins, and I agree with you on that front as well. But you mentioned Coach Loggins, and we all know his story by now. What, if anything, that you've learned, can you share about how he's kind of getting this offense to come together? And if you could also, Pat, speak on his NFL experience. I mean, you played in the NFL for, 11 years or something like that? And he was in the league basically that long as well. And if you can speak on to, speak to what I'm trying to get at here is, you have a guy who called plays in the league who understands how to utilize the talent that he has on the roster and the things that they do well to move the football. So how will that translate to this level, calling the game at a collegiate level, where he might feel like this group here or this guy here can't do this, that, and the other, but he's got that mentality already of we can't square peg round hole it. How can you kind of translate that for us?
I think the big thing with him is he's seen the elite of the elite, and I think, I know complacency for him and Coach Beamer is not a thing. And in today's era of college football and even the NFL, you can get complacent really quick. When you become uber talented, you make good money, the world hypes you up, you look at social media, and you're on top of the world. And I don't think there's going to be any of that. I don't think that's going to slide from Dow Loggins is going to push Spencer Rattler just like he's going to push Lenore Sellers. I think, Amarian Brown is going to be pushed just like Juice Wells, Xavier Leggett, Omega Blake. Like, all these guys are going to be coached hard and fair. And it's kind of just so keeping these guys out of complacency is going to be the biggest thing, and challenging them. And challenging them both mentally and physically. Challenge somebody physically is making them run a 12-play drive and not giving them a water break and letting them go. Let me see what you got. Let me see what you're going to do in the fourth quarter when it's nut cutting time. Are you going to be able to answer the bell, or are you going to be able to sit out there and have the gas to do all these plays? Are you going to be able to run a go ball as the decoy guy, and then next play you're not the decoy guy and you hit him deep? So I think from that standpoint, I know that those guys are really going to be pushed. And then, Coach Loggins, like, it's a copycat league, right? So he's seen 15 different ways to run Y choice, or run 17 different ways to run scissors concept, and all these different things. So you can manipulate and switch splits and jet motion, and you can really, in essence, find out if you're getting man or zone coverage in 3 seconds. Motion the Y across, or motion the Y out, or shift the F across. And if they travel, or if they bump too much, all right, we got man, we got zone. All right, Spencer, here's your 2 reads on this play. Boom. So I think just from having that and dumbing the game down and putting these guys in positions to succeed, I think this offense is going to be capable of a lot of things.
Well, and what you're saying there as well, again, specifically kind of relating to the running backs is that's where you can help these guys, because I think that a lot of the public, and I'm no different. I'm trying to speak for everybody here. You know me. I text you from time to time, going, "What the hell am I looking at?" Flint, I do to an extent. After that first bottle of wine, I don't know what he's talking about anymore. But like, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that if you have an offensive coordinator, and you just mentioned all the things he's seen, and knowledge is power, and we know that, and you can create for these guys opportunities for them to be successful. Of course, that grows into confidence, whole 9 yards. I think a lot of what the general public thinks about here is, do we have a running back room that can just line up and run it right down their throats? That remains to be seen, and that's a fair question, because they got to be able to do that on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 and goal line situations and all that.
Yeah, but that's not on just that room, though, right? I mean, that's right. That's on quarterback. That's on. It takes 11. Like,
right,
and that's
where I'm going. Yeah,
there's a lot of plays where, in the NFL, it was, how can we get our running back one-on-one with the corner? Like, let's block everybody but that play side corner, and let's make that play side corner make a tackle. Because like most corners in the NFL and elite guys in college football, they'll be in your hip in man coverage, and they'll be all over it, sinking in cover 3. But when the receiver goes and cracks the safety, and that corner has to kind of fill tight right off that edge, and that running back bounces it, and he's got a full head of steam, there's not that many corners that are going to be able to sit there and really plug that hole and not let that guy bounce off and make a couple yards. So, like, that's Xavier Legette coming in and inserting and cracking that safety, or fitting inside and cracking that Sam linebacker and just leaving that corner out there. So, it takes 11 guys. It takes you got to look at, even when you run play pass and some of the wide zone stuff, like, a lot of the times you don't block the backside defensive end. And that defensive end is the quarterback's responsibility. So he has to play fake, and he has to boot out, and he has to make that backside defensive end think for a second, oh, shoot, I got to squeeze. Well, that half a second he had to think lets the running back cut backside and gain those 2-3 yards off the back edge. So it takes 11 guys. And, like, we were licking our chop. If we could get Devontae Freeman, LaShawn McCoy, Steven Jackson, then these guys I blocked for on the NFL, if we got them one-on-one with the corner, and they were tackled one-on-one, even if they gained 7, 8, 9 yards, that wasn't a plus. Like, they were getting a minus on that play. You get your one-on-one in the open field against the corner, you better make him miss. So it takes 11, and yes, that running back room is going to have to. I think I talked about it last week. If it's blocked for 3 yards, you better gain 5. Most guys other than Juju are 6 feet tall. You think fall forward, that's 2 yards. So, like, that's their job. But it takes 11 to hat for a hat, leave one, quarterback, running back, whatever it is, and let those guys work. But I think the big thing is up front and giving those backs the chance to make the read. And it's also the back's responsibility to press the blocks. You're running duo or a certain scheme where you're doubling up the 3 technique to the Mike linebacker. If that Mike linebacker flows hard, and that double team doesn't last long. So the guard or tackle, somebody has to come off and expand. So the longer that back can sit there and hug that double team and press that double team, you're moving that 3 technique 2-3 yards off the ball and just basically running them right into the Mike linebacker. That makes the read pretty easy for the running back. So, it all ties in together. The quarterback carrying out his boot fake, the X receiver coming in and cracking that safety, the tight end collapsing the edge, the running back pressing the block, the double team really being thick and working up. So, I can't wait till we start watching football and I can draw on my screen and show you guys what the schemes and stuff are. But it's, it's so cool, and that's the beauty, and especially when I was coaching. Like, I'm critical. Like, in my playing days, as a fullback, I'd play anywhere from 35 to 15 snaps in the game on offense, and I was a perfectionist. Like, blessing and a curse, right? Because you play really good and you're on top of the world. You play pretty good, but you have a few bad ones, and like me, I'm pissed off. My wife's like, "Ben, I thought you played really good. You had 3 catches," and I'm like, "Yeah, I had 3 catches for 7 yards. If you think that's good, then you don't know what you're talking about." But I missed 2 blocks, right? My guy fell off and he made 2 or 3 plays. So it all goes in together, and I just think that it takes 11, and that's going to be how the team's going to succeed. And like I said, get that extra safety in the box and let those outside guys play. And if those outside guys play well, they can't put 8 in the box. Then you have good boxes to run the ball. So it all ties in together.
You think you've done this before, like you know what you're talking about. By the way, that description a minute ago was a little bit better than the one that LT asked the water boy when they asked him, "How do you sack a quarterback?"
Yeah.
So no, I'm messing with you. I kept thinking, I was like, where? I feel like I've heard this before, and I was like, oh, the water boy, his speech where he just hit the guy. But no, because you really rolled right into where I was going next. This is that time of the year when you get these practice reports, Pat, and this is from our side of things. I'm talking the media side or the fan side. We see the outside world looking in, and then you know, coaches and players, which you've been all of the above, see it from the inside out, and that is the battle of the line of scrimmage. And it doesn't matter how it's described, because every year it's going to cause the same uproar. Well, the defensive line had a really good day yesterday. Oh, does that mean the offensive line sucks? Or, oh, the offensive line, they really protect Rattler well. Man, our defensive line ain't worth a damn. You know, like, nobody knows. Is there one way or another to look at that? Or like in your experience of playing football over the last, 20 years of your life, basically, is there a general rule or guideline that you've kind of gone by, or something that it was in college or in the pros where you always expected this group maybe to be a little bit ahead of that group? Kind of walk us through that and maybe help us start to simmer and calm and understand a little bit better in the months of August.
Yeah, the world isn't ending, guys. Whether good days, bad days, everyone's got to get acclimated, and it takes time. You think like in the NFL, you have OTAs and all these things, and you're practicing with shells on. Well, I can tell you what, it is really hard to go from blocking somebody in shells for 3 or 4 days and then putting the pads on the very first day and kind of being thick and all that stuff. And then you also got to think 5-6 days of practicing in a row. And Beamer does it. He's a ball buster. Like, he works these guys hard. I mean, like, for a reason, right? Because he's building up for a 12-game season. So building stamina and strength and all that stuff. So, I mean, although you're not going to feel great all the time, but you do got to play at a high level. But you also got to think these guys, they're probably on practice 7, 8 now, maybe 3 or 4 days in pads. So they're still getting acclimated and they're still getting the chemistry. The place I guard on a double team might fit a little, your right guard might fit a little different from the double team than the left guard. So center has to get used to, okay, if I'm going left, I know my left guard's really, really thick on these double teams. So maybe I don't need to be too heavy because he might knock me off. On the right side, he's not as thick. He's really kind of just trying to place himself there to make sure he's working up. So it's getting to know each other. It's chemistry. It's getting acclimated. I mean, the hardest thing for me as a fullback, when I was an extra offensive lineman, I like to view it as myself, but it was kind of the transition of blocking in shells and in the little spider pads versus full pads. Like, it was the first few days was like, man, I thought I really fit thick with shells on, but full pads is different fitting thick. I better bring my hips. I better do that. I better sustain. My feet got stale. So different things you can work on. These guys still have almost 3 weeks of practice left before that very first game, 2.5 weeks. So it's still a ways to go. But I mean, I'm an offensive guy, so I'm biased, but it's a lot easier for your 3 technique or your defensive end to really fire off the ball and just tee off upfield than it is for that guard or that tackler to really set and make sure he's thick and make sure he doesn't whiff. So, I mean, the first few days, maybe other than the secondary, the front 7, the defense kind of has an upper hand because it's inside drill. It's 7-on-7. There's no pass element to it. So the backers are lined up at 2.5 yards. The deepest safety's at 8 yards. And you're like, I really wish we could run a play pass right here so I could throw that thing right over your head because you're playing at 8 yards. So, I mean, there's different gimmicks and schemes built into things. And yes, I mean, on the coaching side, there's some script reading too. Like, they might not know the exact play, but they know that these numbers mean it's a run play. So, hey, safety, make sure you come on down a little tighter in this play. So there's no reason to sound the alarms or freak out. I think it'll all come in due time. And the chemistry is still not there, right? I mean, there's still a lot of open competitions out there to find out who's going to be the guy that very first game. And I think, I mean, one thing that Coach Spurrier did is he'd sit in the very first team meeting room and say, hey, raise your hand if you're a starter going into this year. And he'd wait for the 4 dummies to raise their hand and be like, oh, I'm the starter. And he'd be like, bullshit, you're the starter. You got to earn that job. So I mean, it's an open competition everywhere. So it's and that's what it is. It's building the chemistry. It's getting the reps. And you got to think if there's 2.5 weeks left, that's 17 practices. That's probably 10 walkthroughs. That's God knows how many meetings. So you got to think there's a lot of time still left to really polish and detail everything up. And I mean, one of my favorite guys in that building is Lonnie Teasley. I mean, is genuine, is just so relatable. I mean, detailed as can be, relatable. Like I would just like, I thought like a former player at South Carolina, played in the NFL 10 years. Like I thought guys would only flock to me and mainly me, but I mean, shoot, a lot of them went to Lonnie just because he was so detailed. He worked under Juan Castillo, who was with me in Buffalo, who was in Baltimore, one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL. And he just had that kind of charisma that guys just flocked to. And he was so detailed on footwork. And, you know, I'm like, hey, just freaking go, man. Balls to the walls, go. And he's like, go, but controlled go. So just very detailed. And I learned a lot from him too. Like I thought you think you know the game to a certain extent, but I learned a lot from Lonnie in 2 years up there. And we had similar schemes. Like we both had a little bit of Kyle Shanahan background, but he was able to kind of teach me offensive line techniques that maybe I wasn't polished on. I mean, I knew the scheme and I knew where they were going, but he's like, hey, they're doing this footwork. So I know you're thinking he needs to expand faster, but faster with your eyes, slower with your feet. I'm like, oh, shoot, that's good. That's really good. So, I mean, and from a recruiting and building and development of guys, like he's investing in the scout team center, who's the 5th guy on the depth chart, as much as he is the first team guy. He loves those guys. He cares for those guys. I mean, LT, shoot, I wish he played for Carolina when I was there because he was super detailed. I know he would have sold out.
It's really, really interesting because it gives us a lot of insight as to why Shane Beamer promoted Lonnie Teasley, because we haven't really heard anything like that. I mean, Shane obviously clearly months ago when he did make him the permanent offensive line coach, he said, for lack of the remembrance of the exact quote, but this guy's a really good offensive line coach, and there's going to be other teams coming after him at some point in time. And was it last week, Pat, that Hale McGranahan with the Big Spur also reported that Lonnie and I think Coach Lucas kind of got into it a little bit out there because
Lonnie and who? Say it again.
Coach Lucas, Sterling Lucas.
Okay. Well, got both fireheads, so I don't.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because it was I think Bradley Dunn, walk-on running back. He got hammered as he crossed the line of scrimmage by Brian Thomas, who basically didn't help him up or something, got pushed to the ground, something. And Lonnie Teasley did not like that. And they kind of went back and forth. I don't know the full scope of the story, but in a nutshell, that's it. But when I read that, I found that really interesting because I've heard that Sterling certainly is a fiery guy and very good coach, knows what he's doing. Did not expect to hear that at all about Lonnie Teasley.
Lonnie Teasley's he's going to jump on the table for his guys. He's going to defend them at all costs. And that's what you got to think that position doesn't get much grace. They're super criticized. They do good, nobody talks about them. They do bad, everybody talks about them.
That's right.
So it's kind of happened that finding the happy median and like praising them but pushing them, or building them up when they're not playing at a crazy high level, and also bringing them back to earth when they have some good plays, just to kind of keep them grounded. That position's all about consistency. Lonnie is. I love Lonnie. Lonnie's desk was right next to me. He taught me, like, I knew the fronts, like, we kind of, with the Shanahan and Brian Daboll, we called the fronts different things. So like you have to learn and unlearn different concepts, different. So like he knew the fronts is from the Shanahan and the Daboll and how, but Sat wanted to put them in the database that are different. And in my first year, I was sitting there on the computer putting in fronts, coverages, stunts, blitzes. I mean, I was sitting there for hours on end, just typing in. And Lonnie's like, hey, man, like this might make it easier. He kind of taught me how to do it, kind of groomed me in that sense. But like he was able to relate it to what we knew it as from Shanahan, because obviously he worked with Sat. So he really helped me and taught me a bunch. Hey, when you're looking at this front, like these are the types of pressures you're going to get. These are the coverages you're going to get. Where I'm just like, oh, wow, like, I never thought about it like that. I just, coaches teach it of when you see this, you should expect this, but there's also 2 or 3 other things that you might get. So for me, it was like, think this, but adjust to this. And Lonnie was really able to clarify that for me.
It's interesting. Well, you usually see offensive coordinators come in and they've got, their O-line guy. Mm-hmm. And do you think that the fact that, Dowell hasn't been like an offensive coordinator in college football, in name, is the reason why he was perfectly okay with Lonnie Teasley just being there? Or is it, just a respect he had for Teasley?
Well, think about it. You're double dipping there. I mean, you get Greg Atkins, who's done it at the highest level for a long, long time. He has NFL experience. He has a lot of SEC experience, Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, was Marshall. I mean, so you almost double dip and you get 2. And I know that Greg and Lonnie have such good mutual respect for each other that, there's no egos in that room. If Greg sees something, if Lonnie sees something, it's like, whoa, man, go ahead, step in, say what you need to say. Like if it's way off from what I want, or they have a great mutual respect. So you almost get 2 head offensive line coaches in that position and shoot. 2 brains is a heck of a lot better than 1, as long as they're on the same page. So, and I know that they work really well together, from allocating work, from, Lonnie might be a better tackles guy. Greg might be a better center guy. I mean, they're going to complement each other in a sense that at the end, the product has to be good collectively. So like, they're not teaching each other. They're not teaching different things to different people. It's, hey, this is how we're going to do it. This is what I want them to hear. Dude, you go ahead and you take the guards. I got the centers and the tackles. And plus you got a GA and you got the student assistant coaches there that are being groomed by 2 really good coaches too. So, I expect that position to really pick up and play at a high level. I mean, look at last year. But the fan base was complaining a lot early on in the year about the offensive line position. And granted, we had a lot of experience. And then second half of the year, they really picked up. So it takes time to get that gel and get that camaraderie. And then kind of once you start keeping teams honest, it can get scary. So I expect big things from that room. I mean, it's a like I said, it's a position that it gets talked about when they play bad. When they play good, it doesn't get talked about. So it's a tough position, but it takes a tough mentally and physically person to do it.
Well, and the results are there right now, at least on paper, that there's a lot of the best players in the country that want to play for Lonnie Teasley and Greg Adkins. Just look at the commitment list for Gamecock football. It's pretty incredible. Pat, it is 12:33, so we owe you, and I know it's $100 a minute, so we owe you $300 for going past 30 minutes, and Phil will put that check in the mail here in just a few moments. But good stuff as always, man. I'll be honest with you. Considering you're the smartest guy, I'm pretty sure that I know when it comes to football. I really just can't wait to actually talk about the game.
I'm excited too.
So we got one more Monday of talking ball of what the hell are they doing? Scrimmaging and stuff like that. And then we can kind of start to zero in on the Tar Heels of North Carolina here in a couple of weeks, and cannot wait.
That's the fun part. I mean, watching these 18 to 23-year-old kids go out there and fly around and have fun, time of their lives. Like that's what it's about. I mean, us as fans and former players, we can, like my wife posted something on social media, I think it was yesterday, about what our August used to look like, training camp with the kids and watching Weston and Sutton in practice and all that stuff. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, damn, I'm old. That seems like an eternity ago. But I mean, that's what life's about. And I remember how high those moments were, playing professional football and memories of being out there with my kids, running around after practices and stuff. And
yeah,
I'm just like, I've probably said it before, but like what makes me most happy is watching these 18 to 22-year-old kids wearing the Carolina uniform, have fun and love it and get those high moments. Cause like they're unmatched, like running out to 2001 at Williams-Brice Stadium. There's nothing better than that. And that's what these guys get to experience. And like, I'm getting chills thinking about it. I mean, I can't wait. Like, hopefully Coach Beamer starts recruiting Weston a little bit, because that'd be pretty cool to be able to watch my son run out in 2001. I might have to, when he's 7 now, so I'll be 45. I'm definitely going to put a uniform on and sneak out there and run out with him if he's able to do it.
I was about to say he's 7. Yeah. So 34. So let me get with JC and we'll see if we can't put a 2034 prospect list together on the bigspur.com and we'll have it sent all over the country. You'll get somebody to recruit him. And then when, Shane can't let a legacy get away like that. He knows better.
Oh shoot, Weston's head might blow up to here.
Well,
might spring the trash.
You're not gonna name him like Baby DiMarco, are you, or something ridiculous like that? Baby Gronk character.
If he ever does get on those Rivals accounts or whatever it is, I'm gonna like email them and be like, I need you to take away at least 1 or 2 stars, humble this kid, make him hungry.
See,
I begged for my 2nd star. And I barely got it.
And then you told Coach Spur you'd call him back. Even worse.
Yeah. That's the head, right? Too confident.
That's when you're
appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, thank you, man. We'll talk to you next week, brother. There you go, Pat DiMarco, talking ball with Pat DiMarco, former NFL superstar and star at South Carolina, of course. He is really good at it, and y'all are going to love that throughout the season here. On Inside the Gamecocks, the show where we need to step aside for a break, so we're going to hit that. We're painted garnet and black by a couple of painters. LetMePaintSomething.com. LetMePaintSomething.com. If you would like to have anything on your property or anywhere painted, they are the best in Georgia and in South Carolina, and that is not just a tagline. They are, and they are the most affordable as well. And I mean that by a country mile. In addition, if you or someone you know is looking for employment, they're hiring. Write this number down, 803-522-6832, 803-522-6832. Ask for Tristan when the phone is answered, and they can get you in the right direction. Of course, you can always just head to their website as well, LetMePaintSomething.com. That's LEMME, paintsomething.com. But really appreciate what those guys do, because they are busy, and we are honored to be partners with them and with you. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Hey, everybody. This is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garnet black every day by a couple of painters. Go to LetMePaintSomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers, or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. LetMePaintSomething.com.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the Village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Building your dream home is often just that, a dream, and sometimes a nightmare. But at the Barndo Company, they commit to quality and build without sacrifice. Customization, open floor plans, limitless flooring options, maintenance-free and easy installation perks, and affordability are just a few reasons why they've been named one of the best builders in the U.S. Believe in your dreams. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company. Gamecock owned. Gamecock operated. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signarama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signarama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signarama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signarama Columbia, and go Gamecocks! That guy right there is looking to lead South Carolina into the top 25 here in less than 3 weeks.
Yeah,
they
I
are
don't think
out of it.
Don't think it's going to be very many games before they emerge inside top 25. You got an opportunity to do it in one game, because something tells me you win that game, you're going to flip those things.
Yeah.
I don't know. North Carolina might have a more precipitous fallback than 27th, because depending on how it looks optically, if they look soft, which they really can't come out there looking like that, then they're not going to get any love. It's going to take them all season to get back in there.
Well, there's a couple of other little side notes here. This is the Bama ranked 4th in the preseason. So I told you they're going to win the national championship. It's the first time since 2009 that they were ranked outside of the top 3. What happened that year? So they won the national championship, right? Yeah. Don't be disrespecting Nick Saban's group like that, man. But this would take some research. When is the last time any other team in the ACC was ranked higher than Clemson to open the season?
Oh, to open the season? Oh my. Mm-hmm.
Preseason rankings. That's got to be a while.
I'd say at least
10
years. 10. Yeah, I was going to say maybe 2014.
Well, I would, you know what, Phil, you're probably right, because if you went back to that 2014 preseason poll, Florida State won the 2013 national championship, right? In January of 2014?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, no.
Of course, I don't know. You knew.
Yeah.
Losing Winston.
Because Ohio State won it in 14, right?
13, 14. Yeah, because there was a 2-year stretch. Because it was the last BCS and the first. No.
It was Ohio State. Yeah, that's right. 13 was Florida State. Ohio State was 14, and then Clemson won it in 15. Or Bama won it in 15, Clemson 16. Right? So, okay. Yeah, so that top 10 that year going into the 2014 season, and I can't exactly remember how well Florida State did, but I would venture a guess that as the defending national championship, they were probably in the top 10. and probably at least a little bit higher than Clemson. You know who else was in the top 10 in the 2014 preseason?
South Carolina?
The South Carolina Gamecocks. Texas A&M promptly ended that whole ordeal.
Yes.
So, yeah, there you go. But as far as the, looking to the future, the preseason here, you've got Georgia, Alabama, LSU, all in the preseason top 10 according to the AP. And so that's 3 out of the SEC. And you got 2 out of the ACC with Florida State and Clemson. But if you include what's going to be moved around next year, Southern Cal and Washington both being a part of the Big Ten. Big Ten already has Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State in there. So that gives them 5 in the preseason top 10. Texas is checking in at number 11, so they're just outside of it to be helpful to the SEC, as is Tennessee at 12. So it's pretty interesting when you look at this. It's going to take some getting used to, man, down the road. And you look at all these teams. And again, here's A&M. A&M and Ole Miss in there at 22 and 23. Iowa's in there at 25. Oklahoma's in there at 20. I mean, there's some big believers in a lot of these programs. I feel like just haven't proved really anything yet.
Yeah, I think there's some brand recognition going on here, I think, from 19 down.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the Luke Fickell deal with Wisconsin, I mean, this is really not that much different from the coaches poll. None of it is.
No, not too far off.
No, I would say a couple of glaring things outside of it, though, like Florida only received 4 votes. And I think the coaches poll, they had them right behind South Carolina. I think Carolina was 27 in the coaches poll. And I think the Gators are 28. And so according to this, they've got Florida in there, whatever. I don't know.
I think UCLA's getting a little more AP love than they got in the coaches poll too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but TSA is still right on the outside looking in. I mean, numbers wise, at least, and the number of votes they're going to have to make up some. But not that I know much about San Antonio this year.
Yeah, I haven't this research. I guess I probably need to, but to no avail thus far. Yeah, 3. If Texas Tech gets in there, you'll have 4 teams from the state of Texas, and if UTSA makes it in, that's 5. If they all kind of squeeze their way in there.
How about 2 from the small state of Louisiana already? Getting some preseason love. Look at that.
I think one of them was largely expected. The other did beat Southern Cal in the Sugar Bowl last year. So there you go. We'll have to let JC and Tony and Whittle and the gang know that they owe some commission. Looks like we've got them a new subscriber to the Big Spur. And welcome aboard. You jump in here with us any day, my man, and really are. And make sure you've downloaded our app, the Chief Sports app. It's the gateway to the grandness, if that's a word, of what we do. Craig has asked this question 100 times, Craig, and I'm sorry I haven't really avoided it. It's just not really my position to say a whole lot. But Pat DiMarco is not any longer on staff at South Carolina, but that is not anything that is in any shape or form bad. He's got now a 4th child, and it's just one of those things where life comes at you, and he needed to do really what he needed to do. But I mean, he was just at the facility a couple days ago, watching practice and stuff like that. I mean, still right in the thick of it with the whole staff. It's just not the right timing right now for him to be able to be in the grind of that Monday through Sunday, always doing your thing. So I don't want to speak for Pat. I know they're disappointed that he's not able to continue on, at least at this point. But who knows? One day when the kids get a little bit older and things are a little bit easier on Kirsten and Pat, maybe they can find a way to squeeze it back in. But he's always going to be around, and he's going to be here with us and stuff like that. They love him over there. So we are thrilled that to have him. I hate that it's at the expense of him being, on the field with Carolina football, but we're certainly thrilled to have him. So. Yeah, he's one of the coolest guys on the planet. There's no doubt.
We'll keep his mind sharp here until he's ready to get back.
We won't. He was saying getting old. We won't let him age.
No. Yeah.
We won't.
I like the whiteboard. We need to get him out there with a whiteboard breaking this stuff down.
That's what I was. Yeah. Well, we're gonna work on that. Maybe if there's a play or something that's him and Perry. Let them, Flint, we got to figure out his spelling first before we can let him write on whiteboards and stuff like that. Michael doesn't really know how to spell. I mean, he can draw like shapes and like little stick figures and stuff like that, but he can't. We're still trying to convince him there's actually an H in his name. But Perry and Pat, they can spell and all those things, so we could get them a whiteboard and let them do it.
But she's probably a damn savant after a damn bottle of wine, though. You better look out, dude.
Well, that's part of the problem.
Like a beautiful mind,
Well, I'm like, Mike, I've heard a bottle pop 3 times. I've only been on the phone for 30 minutes, man. Wait, you got somebody there with you? No, it's just me. Oh, no. All right. Well, okay.
That's right. Keeping myself company.
I hear you, big dog. Hey, we do need to hit our final time out here, but I never got your favorite broadcast crew from the 4-letter network. So when we come back, if you don't mind, maybe dish that because you were on mute, and maybe we can find out where JC is. Make sure that he's, is he okay or
he's okay. He's good. He's passing through Champaign, Urbana, and said he was going to go go share some lunch with old Bielema there.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds good. All right. Oh, we will get Phil's favorite broadcast crew plus a wild story could be breaking on what we thought for a long time was one of the great stories in college football. If you haven't heard about this yet, we will pass it along right here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show teed up by the coolest golf club in the Carolinas, travelingcountryclub.com. We'll be right back.
Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half-hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter @Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer. Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on 2 wheels. Magnum, Velotric, Aventon bikes, and more. And they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle help you handle the southern heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available all ages and sizes. ElectricBikesCharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Bikes are Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Electric Bikes of Charleston! Bikes of Charleston!
Yeah, man. go hard right on into the end of the show here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I found ESPN's doing some shakeups, it looks like, in the booths this year.
Yeah.
From what I can tell. I don't know. I like Joe Tessitore. And Sean McDonough, I think's worth listening to.
Yeah, Sean McDonough.
I mean, Sean's awesome.
I personally think of this network, he is the best that they have.
Yeah.
And I like Chris Fowler, but I think Sean's better.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to, hearing what Greg McElroy's got to offer.
Yep. Me too.
I think
big fan.
I mean, he's a big South Carolina fan, so
hey, Greg has a lot of respect, always has, for South Carolina. Clearly, he was right in the thick of it in 2010. But he's if I ever get a chance to meet him, and I'd love to one day, because again, I've got a ton of respect for him. I'm blaming him for everything because he picked them to literally win the whole shebang in 2014. Oh yeah, they're going to win the SEC. Shoot, I got South Carolina playing for a national championship this year under Steve Spurrier, and they did not.
A&M. And A&M. That's how you finish that one. It's just, you get blown out in the opening game.
Yeah.
Let them hang half 100 on you.
Yeah.
And look like crap doing so.
Yeah. By the way,
come out of that looking good.
Yeah.
Giving up 50. But I mean, if you get 60, then it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. By the way, one of the more underrated broadcast teams out there as well, Taylor Zarzour, Matt Stinchcomb, and Alyssa Lang. Alyssa is a pro. She's so good, and she's a proud Gamecock. Stinchcomb is really, really good in the booth. Really good. And Zarzour, I think, has really come a long way as well. He called the bowl game, and it was an excellent call, actually, on his part. He used to be really a golf guy, but he's come a long way as well. All right, Phil, before we get out of here, and we'll hit on some of this tomorrow, a strange but really would be a really difficult story to understand if it is true. Michael Oher, whom the movie The Blind Side was created after, alleges that the Toohey family made millions off of just one big lie. This is according to a report from Michael Fletcher with ESPN. He says that his supposed adoption out of poverty by this white wealthy family was immortalized in the movie, and he has petitioned a Tennessee court with allegations that a central element of the story was not true and that it was concocted to enrich themselves at his defense. It's a 14-page petition, and it alleges that both Sean and Leanne Toohey took Oher into their home as a high school student, but they actually never adopted him. Instead, less than 3 months after Oher turned 18 in 2004, the petition says that the couple tricked him into signing a document making them his conservators, which gave them legal authority to make business deals in his name. Further, the petition alleges that the Tooheys used their power as conservators to strike the deal that paid them and their children, their actual real children, millions of dollars in royalties from the movie that grossed more than $300 million. And he goes on to say that would not have existed without him. In the years since, the Tooheys have continued calling the 37-year-old Oher their adopted son and have used that assertion to promote their foundation, as well as Leanne Toohey's work as an author and speaker. The legal filing goes on to say that Michael Oher discovered this lie to his chagrin and embarrassment in February of 2023 when he learned that the conservatorship to which he consented on the basis that doing so would make him a member of the Toohey family, in fact, provided him no familial relationship with the Tooheys. And I know we're out of time, so I'll leave it there. But hard to believe that this is look, man. This happened a long time ago, dude. I mean, this happened 20 years ago. And it's hard to believe that it would go this far without him realizing something like this. So certainly looking forward to reading the rest of the story. The Tooheys have not responded thus far, but looking forward to their response.
I mean, yeah, it's that's allegations of predatory behavior, basically. I mean, you're taking advantage of someone who, just exploiting his ignorance, I would assume.
If it's true.
That's terrible.
If it's true.
If true.
Yeah, if it's true.
Yeah.
I always wait for all the facts to come out.
Like this.
Yeah. We've heard the Tuohy speak publicly numerous times over the year. You've seen it, and they seem like salt of the earth type people. But so we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not going to believe one side or the other until we get more information out there. Final quick note on the top 25. South Carolina, Ole Miss, Alabama, Colorado, Baylor, Auburn, Florida, Michigan State, Minnesota, and Cal all have 5 AP top 25 opponents on their schedule this fall. So for what that's worth, that pretty much summarizes South Carolina every year. This year they have but 2 top 10 teams in Georgia and in Clemson, 3 top 12 teams when you include the Tennessee Volunteers. North Carolina and A&M will be the 4th and 5th programs on that list. Thanks to the great John Whittle and our man Pat DiMarco in his second Talkin Ball segment here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. I'm assuming we'll have JC back tomorrow. Hell, I don't know. I've been telling y'all that for a week. I'm being made to be a liar at this point in time. So we'll work through the kinks and figure it out. I don't know where he is. I don't know.
I put it in the description every day, just in hopes.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe, just maybe today's the day.
I don't know. I do know this. Hale McGranahan, we should be here tomorrow. We'll have to check the Gamecock football calendar, but we're planning to have him. We will have Mike Morgan for a full hour as well. Thanks to Phil, as always, and all of you. Make sure you do your homework tonight. Tell your friends about the Chief Sports app. It is crucial to what we do and what we can provide you in the future. And you would be doing us a large, large favor by just hitting that little share button in the upper right-hand corner of our app and send it to your friends and have them download it as well. There's 3 little lines in the upper right-hand corner. Hit it and send it out. We'd really, really appreciate that. Getting closer to kickoff, boys and girls. Have a wonderful and marvelous Monday. We'll see you tomorrow from the Signarama Studios inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barn Dough Co.